You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hi, and welcome back again to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Sorry it's been a few days. You know what the logistics are like here. So today I'm going to be talking about the 3 days since we arrived at Lehigh Gap. Then tomorrow there'll be another show for the 3 following days, bringing us nicely up to date on Sunday evening. So before we get started with the show, here are a few words from our sponsor, Sawyer. When I hit the trail in 2014, I soon discovered that I'd come with the wrong water filter. Everybody else had a Sawyer squeeze. Eventually I bought a squeeze and I loved it. I'm going again this year, and top of my list of things to buy was the new micro squeeze filter by Sawyer. Like all Sawyer stuff, it just works. You can filter up to 100,000 gallons, and their full-size squeeze filter comes with a lifetime warranty. Last year, believe it or not, more than 4 million people got clean water through a Sawyer water filter. But if you think that Sawyer is just about water filters, you could not be more wrong. Nope, they supply everything to protect you, both in the backcountry and the backyard. Protect your gear and clothes as I did with their permethrin fabric treatment, which is 100% odorless after drying. With all the ticks and bugs around, this is an absolute must. They also provide sunscreens and first aid products. Find out more by visiting Sawyer.com. Thanks guys, we really appreciate the support. So, the days are racking up now, and because Trigger and I are still putting in the work, our miles are racking up too. It's been another solid few days, and we are at last, we're out of Pennsylvania. We've also been lucky enough to be hosted by a listener with 80 ambitions of his own, but I'll tell you about that later. First, it's back to last Tuesday when we faced a boulder scramble right out of the gate. Here's day number 106. Day 106, Lehigh River, South Bank, mile 1259.1 to a campsite, mile 1278.7, a 19.6 mile day. We knew in the morning that our big climb was going to be up the Superfund site. There's a boulder scramble, really, a rock scramble that I was really looking forward to. That as you cross the bridge at the over the river, you can see all these boulders ahead of you, and you know you're going up there. I say it was a Superfund site years ago, and it is starting to recover now. But we noticed actually at the top they rerouted the path again. So I think we actually didn't quite get quite as many boulders as I got last time myself. I'd forgotten actually that there was a rather intense up before we hit the rocks. First off, you go over the bridge, you then head up the road to the right, then you cross the road and you start this quite steep climb before you actually hit those boulders. But once you get there, man, it was awesome. I just loved it. There's something about it. I don't know what it is. It reminded me last time, and it did it again actually, of climbing in Wales, where I used to go on holiday with my brothers. Climbing in Wales as a kid. We just scrambled over boulders, pulling ourselves up. And really once we got over the intense initial climb, we put our poles away. It was just me and Trigger, and put our poles away. And there are huge boulders, just massive boulders with white blazes painted every now and then to point the way. And you really have to watch out for where you're going. And we found our way up there. As I say, I remember the climb being longer because it was soon over and we headed down a little way. I don't recall doing that last time, but maybe I'm wrong, you know. So there's been a bit of a reroute, something to do with revegetation, I think. And it just wasn't quite as glorious at the top as I remember it being. And I think the path along the top is about, it looks to be about 30 or 40 feet, 50 feet maybe, lower than where it used to be. But I guess that's the way these things are, you know. It's a funny thing. When things don't match up in your memory, you're sometimes disappointed. And that's been the case with me this time. However, when they do match up, I seem to be exponentially happy. It seems to be, I'm expecting something to be a certain way, and I'm kind of disappointed when that does happen. But when it is the way I think, man, I'm delighted. And I really, really have enjoyed that part of it. Memory is a real strange thing. The hike for most of the rest of the day was basically Trigger and I trying to avoid the worst effects of sharp rocks on our feet. I tell you what, these rocks have really started to piss me off. There's hardly anywhere to put your foot that doesn't have a rock on it. And that's entirely different to going over those bigger boulders. But when you go on the rocks, which are so darn sharp, you put your foot down, you feel like you're almost impaling yourself on the rocks. And really, I got angry with it. I don't know why I shouldn't have done, but I just kind of got angry with it. And there was one sudden dip and a horrendously sharp climb up, but otherwise it was flat. We'd carried out 3 litres of water because there was none until about 16 miles into the day at the Leroy A. Smith shelter. And so, to go 16 miles without enough water would be bad. So taking 3 litres was necessary for me. When we got to the Leroy A. Smith shelter, I asked some ladies at the shelter where the best source was. They said, well, there's a pretty good one quite a ways down, but the main one, the first one you come to, isn't too bad. Well, Trigger, for some reason, went further down to the most reliable source, I guess. And but I went down to the first one and found it no problem at all. I got plenty of water just 50 yards down from the shelter. And we always try to avoid these long climb downs, and I avoided it, but Trigger didn't. We knew there was a campsite at about 3 miles further on, and we eventually found it. We didn't want to get all the way. We didn't know where we could stop. We couldn't get to Wind Gap because that's not the place to stop. We didn't want to stay at the shelter, so we wanted to get a campsite to give us an easier walk into Delaware Water Gap the next day. And it was a really nice clearing with space, and as it turned out, for 5 tents. First, there was a flip-flopper we'd met before, Ben Bedley. We'd seen him a couple of days now. Nice fella, and he showed up and found a spot before Napster and Smirk, who we've seen pretty regularly recently. They turned up and camped. It was quite the tented village. And as I hadn't spoken with a flip-flopper before, I took the opportunity to chat with Ben Bedley. And as you will hear, he was on a pretty strict deadline. Let's hear from Ben.
Okay, I'm here in a very windy woodland setting right now. I'm here with Ben Bedley. Hi Ben, how are you?
Good, how are you, Steve?
Good. Well, we've actually set up camp tonight, me and Trigger and Ben, in a little clearing in the woods just outside Wind Gap, and we've just been chatting, and he's got he's the first flip-flopper I've spoken to. So how's it going so far? You started at Harper's Ferry, didn't you?
Yeah, I started at Harper's Ferry, so I'll go up north to Katahdin, and then I'll flip down to Springer and go north and end in Harper's again.
Oh, right. So you're not going from Harper's down to Springer?
Yeah. I've had a couple of people suggest that it puts me in the Smokies at a less cold time if I flip down to Springer.
Oh, right.
And then go north from there.
So you'll be finishing at Harper's as well at the ATC headquarters.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Exactly.
That's a really nice thing to do. So why did you decide to do it this way? Why have you started? Because you started pretty late, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to start late. I was in college, and I graduated on the 10th of May, right. And then I started on the 19th. So I gave myself a week to get ready and get all my gear together.
Now Ben has quite a pressing engagement. He must make sure he finishes by, I think, December the 18th, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Why's that?
I'm getting married.
So if this takes longer than you're thinking, and you get up to Katahdin, you enjoy that, you get down to Springer, and you start marching north, and you're 3 days away when it's time to go back to California to get married. Come on.
Yeah,
admit it. You're going to want to finish.
I will definitely want to finish, but I think I'd probably go back for a section hike after.
Oh, right, I see. Okay, and while you're doing this, your fiance, is going to be doing.
She's going to be doing the Camino.
All right. Yeah. So it's not something you thought of doing together at all.
I think it made a lot of sense to us, and it worked out with me being done with school and and she did a AmeriCorps program, and it ends in time for her to do the Camino. So just timing, it worked out good for each of us to do our own trips.
So, and you said to me you haven't spent more than 3 nights on a hike before, and this is your first big hike.
This is definitely the longest, most time I've ever spent out in the backcountry.
He's also told me you often sleep around in the woods by yourself, don't you?
Yeah, it tends to happen that way a lot.
How's that been for you so far?
Sometimes it can be a little spooky. You hear probably just what is a squirrel or something, and it sounds much bigger. Yeah.
So do you hang of course you don't hang your food. You've got the
a bear canister.
Yeah. So what do you do with your bear canister? Do you put it somewhere away?
You put it a distance away, and then that's it.
Has it been disturbed yet?
Not it. Every time it's been right where I've left it.
So what have you? You haven't got a name yet. And
nope.
I have suggested the name of Groom, and you kind of like that one.
Yeah,
didn't you?
it's okay.
That's a
it's
possibility.
Right.
Yeah, Groom, that might work out quite well. And so, what are you going to do when you actually finish? You're going to fly straight to California.
Yep.
Which is where you live anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So I'll go back, and this last year I had an internship with the National Park Service, and I liked it a lot. So I would love to continue working for them in some capacity in the future.
And has the being in nature expanded that view as well already?
I think so. I think I've thought a lot more about other options of working outside, doing something to encourage people to spend time outside in nature, and
because you were taking young kids out
yeah, I worked with kids a lot in my internship, so that was an inspiring experience, and I'm sure I was
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So do they know you're doing this, or
some of the people that I worked with do, and they follow my sort of adventures on Instagram, and
so if people wanted to find you on Instagram, where would they go?
My handle is I think it's just Ben Bedley.
Spelled
BenBedley.
BenBedley. Ben Bedley. Okay, man. Well, look, good luck on getting married at 22 years of age. Actually, I got married 22 years of age, first time as well. Yeah, good luck on getting married, and good luck on the hike.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.
I really hope that Groom will stick as a name. I really like it. And a number of other people I talked to liked it. So I'd love to know if Groom is still hiking forward under that name. So it was a good evening, warm and friendly. And I went to bed looking forward to the next day and our last in Pennsylvania. That's the end. Day number 106. Day 107. Campsite, mile 1278.7. To Delaware Water Gap, mile 1295.4, a 16.7 mile day. I've been contacted by a listener, a guy called Phil McGee, and he'd invited me and my tramley to his home. He knew by now, but the tramley was just me and Trigger, but he in fact offered both Cushy and Dodger Dog because when he first reached out, that's who I was hiking with. He was very enthusiastic about the trail, and he had several questions for us later on that day. And in fact, he'd written tons down as well. And it was lovely to be surrounded by that enthusiasm, let me tell you. And so I accepted the invitation, and both Trigger and I were happy to be going there. And to get there early enough, we had some chores to do. Trigger and I set our alarms at 5 o'clock. Because we were not in a shelter, we were in just a tent site, there was nowhere really to sit and cook. So I just lay in my tent and cooked in the vestibule of the tent, which is kind of nice. Made sure nothing was going to burn down or catch fire. So that was kind of nice. And we got ourselves ready, and we were ready to get out, and we left the camp at about 6:25 that morning. The previous day, water had been quite an issue for us, and again, it was going to be, we knew. Although we believed we could get to Wind Gap, which was only a couple of miles, and get some water from a nearby motel, but we drew a blank there, unfortunately. So we were kind of struggling on just about 1 litre of water. I was struggling on about 1 litre of water I had. This was yet another rocky day, a really rocky day that kind of pissed me off again. The sharpness of these rocks, there seems to be nowhere in Pennsylvania you can put your feet down and not get lacerated by these sharp rocks. It's tough. I mean, it really is. And, I'm not complaining, but it is what it is, We eventually found water and I filled up 3 bottles. Getting the right amount of water is critical to how I feel in a day. And Pennsylvania has not been great from that standpoint. And I think really my fault probably for not planning the water well enough, but really it's tough to get water there. But some people very kindly leave water at road crossings. And when we find that is such the most wonderful thing to get. And it was just great to find it when you just suddenly see these big plastic bottles and they're full of water. And we did that a couple of times. The climb down into Delaware Water Gap was another little tester, let me tell you. Pennsylvania was trying to get us again with sharp rocks. It was exhausting. We thought we'd finished all the difficulty of the day, but it was just a tough climb down there. And frankly, I was done with the state. Absolutely done with it. It happened to me first time, and it's happened to me again. It is the toughest and worst state for me, as far as I'm concerned. We were there early for Phil, so we went on to the post office. I had 3 things to pick up. One was a letter that I needed to sign and get notarized. Another was a kind of stick pick type thing, which I ordered from Amazon. I couldn't get a proper phone attachment from Stick Pick themselves, so I found a selfie stick on Amazon, and it seemed to be better than the one that I'd got from Walmart, so I'd ordered it and see how that was going to work out. And the third was the flex kit for my tent from Z-Packs to make the tent freestanding. Trigger's got one at a Z-Packs tent, and they're these flex sticks which you put together, and it raises the tent up and allows it to be entirely freestanding. You don't need your poles to set it up. You can then move it around minutely without staking it. And I really, really liked the look of it on Triggers, so I thought I'd try to get those. Unfortunately, they weren't there, which was a drag. I paid extra for it to turn up 3 days later, but they weren't sent as soon as I ordered it, and they weren't due to be there till Friday. And this was now, what day was it? It was Wednesday. So unfortunately, I wasn't going to be getting them on that day. They were very helpful at the post office though, and said to me they would forward them if I called them again on Friday or Saturday. Yes, Saturday morning, when actually they were supposed to turn up. We knew from the tracking they were supposed to turn up on Saturday, and that they would then forward them to another post office. So that was very helpful. Phil turned up and ran us around to Walmart to resupply and the UPS store to get the signature notarized. We also got some beers, and I bought a bottle of wine for Phil's wife, Kate. She's of Italian heritage, and man, can she cook. We had a fantastic dinner, and Trigger and I, of course, really tucked in. She gave us tons of food. She must have heard we eat a lot, and it was lovely, absolutely gorgeous. We ate about 6-ish because Gary Sizer, you probably know Gary, the Green Giant, he has a podcast as well, Stories from the Trail, and he invited me on the show, which was rather nice of him. Unfortunately, because we'd had dinner, I'd had 2 beers and 2 glasses of wine when I joined the show, and I certainly enjoyed myself. I hope everybody else enjoyed themselves as well. But we had fun chat, and one of the first questions they asked me was, since I'm thinking about it now, one of the first questions was, why would you do this for a second time? And I said to both of them, why would you not want to do it for the second time? I don't know whether they wanted me to turn the question around or not, but I thought we had fun, and hopefully people could at least understand me after my couple of beers and a couple of glasses of wine. We then carried on chatting with Phil and Kate, and it was really a nice evening with them. I say Phil's enthusiasm is so infectious. He just loves the idea of doing the trail, and we went to bed eventually, well after hike at midnight, about 10 o'clock. Ooh, us people. Without a definitive start time for the morning because the forecast was pretty woeful, and we knew there was going to be some rain out there. But that was a great day, and we thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's the end of day number 107. Day 108, Delaware Water Gap, mile 1295.4 to Mohican Outdoor Centre, mile 1305.9, a 10.5 mile day. We had breakfast in the morning with Phil and Kate, watching the weather outside looking worse and worse and worse and pouring with rain. And they didn't seem to be in any hurry to get rid of us. So Kate spoiled us again, giving us tons of food. We just sat there eating all the time. It was great. Loved it. We thought we'd repack our bags as well. We had everything to put back together again from having spent the night there. And we had some Mountain House food, actually it was this time, and we repacked it into freezer bags. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but these freezer bags, you save quite a lot of space when you've got these big freeze-dry milled by just re-put them into a freezer bag and squeezing them that much tighter and giving yourself more space in your bag. And you can pour boiling water into the freezer bag, so it works out really nice. Phil carried on asking us questions. He just wanted to know more and more stuff. As I said, he has 80 ambitions of his own, but he's quite the athlete. And let's let Phil tell you about his plans for next year and what he's been doing as well. Here's Phil.
Okay, I'm here with Phil McGee, their dog Boston, and Kate's just moved away. They hosted us very kindly. Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm terrific. How are you?
We are so grateful that you hosted us. It's been a great day to be here. It's raining. It was raining outside. You're about to take us somewhere near back to the trail, but you're going yourself next year, aren't you?
I am. Yes. My current plans are to leave April 7th, and I'm still deciding exactly where I'm going to start. I know I'm going to end at the top of Katahdin and Baxter State Park, but. Right. Whether I'm going to flip-flop or just Novo is yet to be decided.
Yeah, well, you said last night, we were chatting last night over dinner, which was beautiful, by the way. Kate, just in case you didn't hear that. We were talking last night, and Phil said, I'm worried that I might get bored with the preparation or
with the idea of hiking the trail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So why do you think that would be? Is it because you're quite an intense person when you come to things you're doing? You're working out this and you're determined to do this and determined to work it in this way. Yeah. Do you think it's likely that you're going to become that way about it? You overthink it, in other words?
The reason I feel that way is because I got the inspiration to hike the trail about 15 to 18 months ago, right, which is, like 2.5 years before when I intended to start.
Yeah.
And there are just some things that I had to get done between then and next year that kept me from doing it immediately. I mean, I would love to have just, dove right in.
Right.
But I couldn't. And so to keep my passion fueled, I've been reading books, I've been listening to podcasts, of course, yours included. And things that will just kind of, scratch the itch along the way. And the idea occurred to me the other day, am I just going to get bored with the idea of doing the trail? Because, I've heard so many stories, I almost feel as though I've done a through hike because I've heard about it from so many different people's stories. And in the meantime, I can't, because of these other activities that are going on in my life right now, I can't get out on the trail to keep that passion alive in a different way. So that's why that thought entered my mind. Am I going to get bored with the idea of hiking it between now and next April?
I don't think you will. From the point of view is that you will know. You seem to be like the type of person who's so determined to do things that you will always have it in your mind. You haven't done it if you don't do it. So I think you're likely to keep the passion, but you keep your energies going in a different direction as well, don't you? What do you actually do, and what are you doing in a couple of months' time?
Well, I do, as we talked about, actually host my own podcast called Choppernomics, and that has nothing to do with hiking or exercise. But my other major passion is triathlon, and what's keeping me occupied this year is I was fortunate to have been invited to participate in the Ironman World Championship in October. It's something I've been working on for 20 years, so there's no way I was not going to do it when I got my qualification. So that happens in October, and my training program for that is 30 weeks. So I started that in March, and I'm very much into it. I'm on week 13 this week. So that's actually going to keep me from, it's a very regimented trail. I can tell you exactly what I'm doing on July 18th.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I can't take 1 day, 2 days, 3 days and just do a couple of shakedown hikes between now and then. So I basically have to stop thinking about it. As a matter of fact, what's kind of ironic is, as excited as I should be about doing the World Championship Ironman triathlons, a goal I've been working toward for 20 years, I can't get the idea of hiking the Appalachian Trail out of my mind. So I purposefully am trying to reignite my passion for a triathlon as I'm preparing for this thing. It's pretty funny.
I'm sure. And you were talking about, and we had a guest on the show some time ago, Jesse Gregor, Pipes, who did the trail, Pacific Crest Trail, ketogenically. You have a similar type diet currently, don't you? And
yes.
Is that going to translate further into the Appalachian Trail as well?
I hope to. Yes. It's not ketogenic, because that is very, very strict in terms of the number of grams of carbohydrates. Mine is called high fat, low carb, which is more about 100, 150 grams of carbohydrates a day, which is surprisingly difficult to maintain.
Really?
Yes. But fat is so satiating, it's so calorie dense, that the way I envision it, I will have to carry less food in order to maintain that diet. And I also feel, because I've experienced this while training for the Ironman, is I don't have to eat as often. I don't feel the obsession with food. You hear about hiker hunger.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing, but I don't know whether I'll experience it in the same way.
Well, I think there's an expression that I've used especially when I was speaking to RTK, Bruce Matson. It's this expression that Mike Tyson uses. Everybody has a plan, and then you get punched in the face.
Yes.
And Katahdin, the Appalachian Trail will punch you in the face at some stage.
Yes. And
you and I think one of the secrets to success on the trail, and we've talked about this obviously last night and today, one of the secrets of success is being able to adapt your plans as you go along. And you seem the type of guy who will adapt your plans, because you've got a military background and all those things. So I'm sure you're going to be fine on the trail, and I hope to goodness you don't lose your enthusiasm.
I'm sure I won't, because once this goal of the Ironman will have been satisfied, I need to move on to something. It's kind of like when people finish the Appalachian Trail, and I know you've talked about this a lot. What you do next is very important to kind of have a next goal in mind.
I think so, yeah.
And so for me, I got into Ironman because after a marathon, I was like, what's next? So it's Ironman. And I know once I finish Ironman, it's going to be what's next. And so the AT in Q is just a perfect solution to what I know will be a problem 6 months from now.
Yeah.
But I think to your point about sticking to the plan and being punched in the face, I can imagine after 4 days of eating nothing but cheese and sausage and nuts.
Oh yeah.
I go into town and I see a stack of pancakes. I can imagine I'm going to allow myself from time to time the pleasure of eating a nice plate of hot stacks.
I'm sure, and Trigger and I would love to thank you for hosting us. By the way, it's been wonderful to be here.
Oh my gosh, this is so much a pleasure for us.
Well, you've been wonderful host, and I just wish you well, and hopefully stay in touch and let us know how it goes.
Absolutely, sure will. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks a lot.
He is so enthusiastic. And I'll tell you what, he's an Iron Man, for God's sake. I mean, really, he's got a great chance of doing it, obviously. Anyway, eventually the rain settled down, and we got out eventually by, I think it was 12:15, something like that. And we started hiking at about 12:30. There was no rain. And there's quite a long walk across the bridge and out of Pennsylvania, and it is extremely noisy. As I said to you before, when you cross a bridge, you get near traffic. It's surprisingly unsettling. You're probably used to it in your everyday life, but once you've been in the woods so long, I really hate it. I really hate the sound of it. Eventually, of course, we turned uphill and we were away. We were back in the woods, and where we both felt very comfortable. And this was clearly a day hike for some people up to Sunfish Pond, as the path was wide and really well kept. And for the first time in several days at least, we noticed the rocks were nowhere near as bad. But that was only for a short time. And it was far easier than I recall from last time. The pond is, you get to the top, you've got this beautiful pond. It's a glacial pond, and it's a national natural landmark. And there are huge boulders all around the pond, and and we had to go back onto climbing around rocks, but we noticed there were many more places you could put our feet down without landing on rocks. So it was definitely an improvement on Pennsylvania. But we walked around the pond quite slowly, actually, because it's quite a tortured path, as it were, around the pond, and you have to be very careful on these rocks. And then eventually we went up and away from the pond to this wonderful ridge. And it must have had views of New Jersey to the right and I guess Pennsylvania to the left. It was what I remember, this beautiful, beautiful ridge. And I really enjoyed it. And it was so lovely, but it was a bit spoiled by the rocks getting worse and worse with shades of Pennsylvania, obviously. We eventually reached the turnoff to the Mohican Outdoor Centre, and it started raining as we walked to the 0.2 or 0.3 of a mile. So we pulled out our umbrellas. Once again, I still didn't get on my rain skirt, but by turning up to the Mohican Outdoor Centre, we knew we'd be able to get out of the rain, which was great. And we booked ourselves a room in the bunkhouse, which was great, by the way. The bunkhouse is excellent. You've got decent showers there. They've got a little kitchen there. We had our own private room with 2 bunks, but it was just me in it, and Trigger had his own one as well. There was Blacksmith and Cliffhanger, a couple of guys we've met before, staying there. And we also saw Jesse. I don't really remember Jesse. He was Star-Lord, and he was a guy I think I first met back in Georgia almost. So these people, they come and go out of your life, and it's really nice to see them again. And we stayed in the bunkhouse, as I say. We also met Laurie, who is trying out the name Trip right now, and her daughter Cyan, the instructor. They're hiking southbound, doing a section together, and Cyan and I were chatting outside. She's only 14, but it doesn't matter. Age matters not the least bit when you're on the Appalachian Trail, and everybody speaks to everybody. It was lovely meeting her and her mum. But that was the end of day number 108. So that took us up to Thursday, and as I mentioned earlier, I'll be bringing us up to date again tomorrow with another episode. We have a reunion with old friends, and even welcome a guest hiker who decided she wanted to come out and hike with Trigger and me. Come and visit again tomorrow to find out all the latest news. I'll see you all very soon indeed.